Hi, Isa. I think you're stuck, which is okay. You're back.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We are having some tech issues on my end in Pakistan. My name is Izza Naveed, and I'm a rising senior at Minerva Schools at KGI. I'm really honored to be part of this webinar once again, part of our Global Pak Tech Summit. And with us today, we have Hamida Khatri, who is the founder of Teardrop. She is an amazing that I am so excited for all of you to get to know. But before we go right ahead, I'd like to tell you a bit more about the people who are sponsoring this and the Global PropTech Summit. It's actually a 1 month long summit. We've had speakers from all over the world, from all sorts of fields, of all ages and flavors, here to share very inspirational messages with all of us today. We are really proud partners, and we both work for and with Pakistani Women in Computing, which is basically a nonprofit that helps women connect, learn, and grow. We are very avid champions of that. I'm personally from Minerva Schools at KGI as well. And so, what that basically means is I get to hop around the world as I finish my undergraduate journey and learn from amazing people like Hamida. So, without further ado, let's shift to Hamida. Hamida is an amazing human being, first and foremost. She is a Pakistani woman who is now moved and lives in the United States. I cannot count the number of degrees she holds with her, but she's done multiple undergraduates, she's done multiple master's programs, and I think she's aspiring for a PhD now, which is just amazing. What's super important to know about Hamida is that she has been working with social entrepreneurship and also just for social impact for the past 15 years of her life. So she's really like a great person to talk about this topic for us. And she's going to share a lot of exciting news about her recent project that is Teardrop that I am so excited to learn about. Before we go ahead, we would like to advise a bit of some user discretion. In some part, like a couple of minutes into the session, maybe at 10 or 15 marks, I'll remind you guys again, we are going to be talking about supporting people that have suffered domestic violence. So even though we're not going to go into any details, but if this is something that triggers you, then we advise you to really like be careful while watching this. But other than that, it's mostly going to be focused on social impact. So we're super excited. Hamida, how are you feeling this evening?
Thank you so much for a great introduction, really, and I feel great. Um, it's been a good day so far, a start of a good day.
Amazing. It's your day is just starting. So I'm
Yeah,
assuming what place are you located in within the US?
in Texas.
Texas. Wonderful. So, Hamida, your journey is really amazing. But I know that before you started into social impact, you also developed a background in business as a business student and other things. So, I'm curious, where exactly do you think your journey started?
Um, it started a long time ago, I believe, but at the same time, I wasn't really sure as to whether it was something that I wanted to do. You know, when you talk about community building and creating social impact, um, I was very, like when I was younger, I was too, energetic. I still am, but at that time, it was more than what I have right now. And I was driven to like working with people or speaking to other people and just trying to like build connections and seeing if there's anything that I can do for them. Like when I still remember when I was like a little girl, it was like in third grade. There was another individual who was part of my class, and she was a failure. She failed like three times, and nobody in my class was speaking to her during break time. Nobody was playing with her, and at that time, I was the only one, who would sit next to her and, speak to her or, like chit chat or share my lunch with her. Like I still remember her face, her name, everything. So I think it started at that time. And I didn't realize that I had that thing in me that I was drawn to, just helping people who feel a bit isolated, or who feel that they're not part of the larger community. It's just that the community sometimes tends to make you feel that way. And my journey actually started at that time, I would say.
Amazing. And you must be so young at the time. It
Yeah,
sounds like your value systems were like already developing since you were in grade three or something. But
yeah.
how did that like connect with the practical side of your journey? Like when did you actually start to take practical steps, realizing these values and these dreams?
Sure. Yeah. So, when I was doing my, we're from Pakistan, so a girl goes to school, then university and stuff like that. It happens. So at that time, in my family, my sisters, like one of my sisters, she's a doctor, and the other one, she was in IBA. She was doing her master's, in computer science. So I did not really have, that kind of a mindset that I wanted to do the same thing, or follow that direction. I always had that in me that, I want to do something different, whatever that interested me. So, but there was lack of mentorship from my family, or my closer, like family network, that I was unable to, like get the right kind of guidance in making the right choice at that time. So the reason for me to start off my educational journey, in business, was because I did not have that kind of support, to tell me that, no, Hamida, you're a creative person, just go do your art thing. But I had to like finish my BBA and then MBA. And when I was doing my master's, I realized that I don't want to make like money for other people, and it's like profiting them. The money is going in their pocket. What about other people, who need help? What about the needy? What about the people who don't have the resources? I started like kind of thinking about those questions. And I did not have the right kind of people also to speak to about it. So what I did was, just out of my curiosity and out of this need that was in me, okay, Hamida, you gotta find your own, like voice. You gotta empower yourself some way. So I found myself doing another bachelor's, and that in fine arts, which basically took me 4 years to complete. But that journey was so incredible, because I learned about how I can use different mediums to speak, like speak out about my challenges, personal as well as the community challenges, and just let people kind of perceive it or interpret it in their own way. So when I had my
Mm.
thesis exhibition, it was like mind blowing. It was like a shocker for me, in first place, because I didn't know that I could draw, like that. But at the same time, when other people started seeing my work, and they started, speaking to me about their journeys of, emotional trauma and stuff like that, I was like, oh my god, there is something happening over there, and that was it for me at that time. I think my journey as a community advocate started.
Beautiful. And just like in numbers, how long ago was this?
I completed my MBA in 2008, but it
Mm-hmm.
was it was it was long before that I was doing, like smaller projects, in my own community, in my own gathering, in my own way. I wasn't really educated as to how to do community work, or how to basically have the conversations or the theories, that kind of supported my work. It was before that I sort of was doing it at the back end. But officially, it was in 2008.
2008. Wow, so that's almost 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Amazing. Hamida, you said this word. You said you are a community advocate, and in other words, we say a community builder. Now, we hear this title a lot, but could you tell us what it actually means? And was there any like you said that this was your trigger story that caused you to really become, a community builder when you met those girls? But was there any other moment that stands out in your life and you were like, okay, this is who I am. Like this is a part of my identity now.
So community builders, they're like, there's this terminology that I learned about, in my third master's. They it's called service, being a servant leader. So as a project manager, as a community builder, you are bound to, like, serve your team. You're bound to serve your community. So community builders are servant leaders. They basically are, they basically have a number of skills, which they use in order to identify a unique kind of opportunity or a unique need that needs to be catered to. So that's the basic generic, definition of who the community leaders are. They have creative, analytical, strategic, communication, and on top of it, they're great listeners. That's one quality that they have, because until and unless they haven't heard about an issue that a community, one person maybe, or two, and then three, and as they have that those like-minded conversations with other people, they kind of it kind of amplifies that, oh my god, this is a challenge, there's a lack of this thing, and which is why, they're the ones to basically kind of take the first step in finding a solution to bridge a gap between A and B point.
Mhm.
Just like, like, for example, Pakistani women in computing, like Huma saw the need that there is lack of mentorship, there's lack of, allyship, in Pakistan and abroad. All these Pakistani women, they're not being identified. They just need a platform where they all can gather and just, kind of help each other, get the right support and the right kind of push. So she's a servant leader. She's a community builder. So she's just one example. There are many others, who are out there.
Mhm. Amazing. And Homa, just for our viewers, is the founder, one of the co-founders for Pakistani Women in Computing. I think I'd also like to highlight Arzish Azam, who is the founder for Ijad Labs and Ijad Plus, under which like we're running this. So I really look up to them, and I really echo this piece about being able to listen to the problem of the community, being able to empathize that there is a gap that needs to be filled. And I mean, I think you're like an absolutely wonderful person to fill that gap. Um,
Oh, thank you so
yeah.
much. I'm like just doing my part, everybody I think is doing it, in their own, um like, with their own abilities and what they can do, for the people who are
Mhm,
out there. So,
mhm.
everybody's doing some work in the community, I'm sure. But thank you so much.
Absolutely, I agree. But I think there's also some people that put so much heart and soul into this as you do. So I think we must highlight that. Um, so yeah, I'm super interested in like your take on social innovation. So right now I'm hearing a lot about community building and social impact, right?
Hmm.
And that sort of leads me to the idea of the fact that you're thinking about brainstorming solutions and filling this gap in. It must require a lot of creativity. And so to me, that's what I understand when I hear social innovation. But could you please tell us more what it actually means?
um it's just a fancy word, I would say. It all means the same thing. But just because, like, it's something that a lot of people are now interested in, younger
Mm-hmm,
generation, and all of that, is just that social innovation basically means like taking identifying a issue or a challenge in your own community, whether it's small, whether it's huge, taking it and finding like a very creative, out of the box, like, solution, and just showing it out there. It can be anything. It can range from just doing some workshops, or it doesn't have to be technical, but a lot of people,
mm-hmm,
like, kind of, because now the whole world is connected, via the internet, where there's this massive use of technology. I feel like that's something
mm-hmm,
that is a very important element, now in this day and age, which is what, even my the project that I'm currently doing, Teardrop, that is something that I want to do, because creating an impact on a global level, it's only through technology that you can do. You can't just do workshops. And you can do, like, this is how I started, like
Mm-hmm.
doing workshops in different parts of the world, like when I went to India
Mm-hmm.
and Bangladesh. I just
Mm-hmm.
I just started doing it with a group of people. I started building connections, but at the same time, I've realized that there's a need for it to be global, which is what technology like comes into play. And having to have that kind of like spark, that kind of, oh, this idea would work. Would you light
Mm-hmm.
bulb chalta hai na? Sometimes
True.
when you're too much into thinking कि, oh, मैं क्या कर सकती हूँ, or मैं
Exactly.
क्या कर सकता हूँ, to basically help the
Mm-hmm.
community. You kind of like feel the gap. You have that, actually that need comes from you personally. You feel like कि
Mm-hmm.
मेरे साथ नहीं हुआ, मुझे वो चीज़ नहीं मिली. I need to find the people
Bilkul.
who actually feel the same thing, and मैं collectively हम सबको कैसे help कर सकता हूँ या कर सकती हूँ. So that's where social innovation comes into play.
Sahi. Perfect. And I feel like that really clears up a lot of confusion and also takes us very smoothly into something I want to talk to you about. So I know you mentioned really briefly about your projects, like, and I know you've done some incredible work in India, Bangladesh, the UK, and the US. So you were talking about some workshops, but I'm wondering if you could tell us a bit more and how you think like the impact and like the problems you're focused on there versus the problem you want to focus on from a global lens. Like how are they different? And what was the point that made you think I have to change my approach and make it more global and universal?
Yeah. Um, I think it was in the heat of the moment at that time. मैं बहुत ज़्यादा, I've been an energetic person all my life. मुझे बहुत excitement होती है to doing something new every time, which is why I've learned, which is why I have so many degrees. That's another kind of a conversation. But what started
Amazing.
off, what started off, जब मैंने ये journey अपनी start की थी, at that time I was very much focused on hearing what the other person needed. For example, जब मैं क्या कहते हैं, मैं पाकिस्तान में थी, I started working in smaller Behbood, association schools. And वहाँ पे, it's all about, women empowerment, giving them, trying to, like teach them some sort of a skill which they can use to, like help them gain, some economic and empowerment as well. So I went there. मैंने जब इनके साथ collaborate किया था, मैं गई थी. I started speaking to the school teachers. I was like, please, can you tell me कि आपकी problem क्या है? आपको क्या कहाँ challenges you're facing, ताकि मैं वहाँ पे आके, like, I can think of something that you're not doing, which I can help you identify, and then आप
Mhm.
उसको on a rolling basis implement karte raho, and then I can give you an action plan कि आप ये कर सकते हो, A, B, C, D, whatever. So I kind of like gave them a toolkit. It was more like providing people a list of things that they can do. For example, जब मैं बहबूद school गई थी, they had the students that I was giving the workshop to, they had issues with mathematics. And उनको मैंने, I taught them how to use puppet making as a
Mhm.
tool to learn about the different concepts of mathematics. And that thing was
Wow.
so eye opening for the school teachers के, oh my god, मैंने
Mhm.
कभी सोचा नहीं था कि मैं इस तरह कर सकती हूँ. And I was like, let me just show them how it's done. It was just me kind of like giving them a training session, and then after that
Mhm.
they would just take off. So providing them with that right kind of toolkit was my main goal, and listening to their need was what kind of triggered my creative thinking into
Mhm.
doing that. So वही चीज मैंने apply की when I traveled to other places. And it has been great so far, because it taught me a very big lesson in life too. It's really important to hear what the other person is saying, because sometimes when you have a conversation, आप अपने बारे में सोचने लगते हो कि ओ, मैं कैसे वो चीज अप्लाई कर सकता हूँ या कर सकती हूँ. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And
Yes.
having that skill of like listening is very important in this kind of work.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I just wanted to give a heads up to everyone that's watching. We are with Hamida Khatri, who is the founder of Teardrop. Anyone who's just joining us now, please feel free to leave your comments on Facebook, and us. They will pop to us directly, so we'll be able to address them. So please feel free to leave any comments. So coming back to you, Hamida. Thank you so much for sharing about this and also your strategy. I think at a later point, हम बात करेंगे like what are some of the tips you have for people who want to join, social entrepreneurship. Before we get there, however, I'm really excited about your global project, which is Teardrop, and I'm really excited to hear more about this. Now, I just would like to advise our viewers that the next 5 minutes we will talk about Teardrop, and user discretion is advised as we will talk about a project that might trigger some of our viewers. So we will be talking briefly about domestic violence. If you would like to not be a part of this, please tune in after maybe 5 to 8 minutes when we, have our conversation change. So, Hamida, what is Teardrop exactly? Could you tell us why did it start, and where do you think it's gonna go?
So Teardrop basically kind of culminates, all the work that I've done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
When I came to the United States in 2015, I came here for my master's, and my thesis project was more about, working with senior women who have been through domestic violence, and what are the tools that I can provide them to go through that journey. And the whole idea behind doing that project was to basically empower them and give them these tools to share their stories. Like, for example, they created puppets, who shared about their identity, and also identified, the kind of relationships that they've built over these years, and how abuse has kind of, impacted them. And we've had that, intimate conversations. They were like 3 to 4 women in my group, and we were together for 3 years, working on this project. And eventually what I did was I exhibited their work in different art galleries, which was something that, a lot of people don't do. I don't know if there is anybody who does that, but it was all about, having to have their work be shown in galleries so that other people can come in and realize, that it's an issue that needs to be talked about, and we need to sort of, like, provide more support to them, financial, and otherwise, whatever it is, that other organizations, or NGOs, who could support them. So that project really opened up my eyes to the many possibilities. I can do it globally. I took a break after that project for about a year and a half, because I sort of wanted to, like, transition into the tech domain. So, I wanted to just concentrate on my studies and also see, what can I do in life, and I kind of like took a route of basically, doing, jobs for other people. And it's just that I realized at that time that this is not my cup of tea. And मैं ऐसी हूं नहीं कि मैं एक जगह बैठी रहूं और एक ही काम करती
Mm-hmm.
रहूं for the rest of my life, or for a longer duration of time. So I realized that, I needed to just go back to my roots, and
Mm-hmm.
the energy that I had all this while, and just like, create something that would be meaningful and that would be global. So I was part of the Park Tech Summit, Park Tech, US Pakistan Tech Exchange program, just
Right.
in February. And that was my, basically, a realization phase. When I met all these other entrepreneurs, young, old, everybody. And I'm that type of person who basically learns from each and everybody. I don't care about other people's ages. I feel like, everybody has something to teach you. So I learned
Very
from
good.
so many people. And I met Huma, I met Arzish, I met other amazing people in that group. And it kind of like gave me this realization, कि, Hamida, what you did in the past is meaningful. It's not like a koi kuch tha nahi, you created an impact at that time. You can revisit and you can start something, that would be global. So there was another there was a hackathon that I was part of, and मैंने बस बोला कि I'll just try and pitch this idea कि you know, if it can be meaningful, I just want to know other people's opinion. It wasn't like I didn't believe in my idea.
Mm-hmm.
That's never the case. I always have a very gut instinct, okay, whatever that I want to do, I actually want to do it, and I see, how it's going to be like for other people. So just to give you a little,
Mm-hmm.
intro on the app, um, on this project actually. Teardrop is basically a storytelling platform for the survivors or the victims of domestic abuse. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Initially, like my plan is to basically launch an app, which my team and
Mm-hmm.
I are working on right now, which will be launched very soon. It's going to be a soft launch that we'll do. We will basically be launching the app to see, how the users are finding it, if they're interested in sharing their stories, globally.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be anonymous. The one important factor that I've realized is that this issue, people who go through domestic violence is very, something very personal, and they don't want to share it with the world. And kind of there are many layers to it. There's this emotional layer, there's this embarrassing, like layer कि मैं embarrassed नहीं हो जाऊं अगर मैंने किसी को अपनी story share की. They feel helpless many times. There's so many layers to it. So
Mm-hmm.
I basically realized that having to keep it anonymous would be the best way to go. It has always been
Okay.
my thing, but I just needed that validation from other people. Okay, anonymous rakho, so it'll
Mm-hmm.
prove to be something that would work. And I'm talking more about it right now, which is why basically the point is कि मैंने ये project launch किया on my personal website just because I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to see how people would respond, and the response has been great. I wasn't expecting कि मुझे लोग अपनी submit करेंगे stories. No, not at all. Like that wasn't my expectation because I knew because I've worked with domestic violence survivors, so I know that they wouldn't just trust somebody, on a digital
Yeah.
platform and like share their really hardcore stories. But there were
Mm-hmm.
individuals who submitted their stories, and there were other individuals who approached me privately and shared their episodes of abuse, and I completely was taken aback, and I was like, oh my god, it is something that is very impactful. This project is going to do wonders once it's out there. So
Absolutely.
it's just about knowing for a fact that, like, you want to आप जब भी if you want to do something creative, if you want to do something that needs to create global impact, I think you need to test it out a little bit and see what people think about it. So by being part of that hackathon kind of proved me that it's a project that can make a huge difference, because I did not have confidence कि मैं कोई technical product launch कर सकती हूँ, and
Mm-hmm.
it would be something that I wanted to do because I'm so new to this domain. But I like the challenge. I like the challenge, and I'm trying to make the best of it, basically. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I really think that there's a big like there's a big gap between people who want to express and share their stories and make use that journey to feel stronger, and platforms that actually exist to help them do this. So like personally for me, I feel like Teardrop is one of the first ones, especially from Pakistan, to emerge globally, or like from you know from someone who's born and raised in worked in the context of Pakistan. So this is really really amazing, and I am so excited. So I'm really curious, Hamida. What do you see? Like how you said that response so far has been like really really great, but like, what is your dream or your vision for Teardrop in the future?
Oh yeah, that's I have like a big, like, 5-year plan,
Tell us.
for this project. But I don't know how much of that is gonna come to fruition. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's about it's about it's about the fact that it was my mom. So sorry about that break. It's about it. I felt like I was stuck. like a
All good.
track record. Um, Question kya tha? Again, please. I'm so sorry. Kind of like missed my.
All good. Don't worry.
Oh, the
So
5 year
where do
plan.
you? Yes,
Yeah, yeah, the 5 year plan.
exactly.
Got it, got it. I just needed to come back because I saw my mother's face. Um, so the plan for Teardrop is
All good.
pretty intense, but it's just that I'm also learning how to, like put all the elements together and basically finding, the people who I can truly trust with, because I'm just a one person, with that passion, with that motivation कि ये चीज करनी है and ये चीज मैंने free में करनी है. So having to
Mm-hmm.
have that is something that is motivational for me, but for other people it might not be. So my long-term goal for Teardrop is to basically create it into a nonprofit organization, and then
Mm-hmm.
having to have different elements, that
Mm-hmm.
would be supporting, like the idea of the app. The app is going to be the storytelling
Mm-hmm.
platform. It will just not have the option for users to submit their stories. There'll be two ways that
Mm-hmm.
anybody can submit their stories. It'll be either they can type it down, and the second option is that they can record their voice. So there'll be two ways for them to do it, both anonymous. But eventually, what my goal is to basically incorporate the idea of, having it to be a gaming platform so that women can, you know, find, a way to feel that there is something that I can do to take care of my emotional well-being, and that app, would be something to do with that. It would help them in some way. So gaming, in this gaming industry, I'm pretty brand new. Like, I've played games when I was little, and I don't know anything about how to make games and all of that. But I have, because I'm a creative person, I have this really amazing vision of how I want it to look like. So I'm kind of like working on finding the right kind of people who can help me, do that. Because when you think about doing, um, creating an organization or creating a product, you're the visionary, and I am that person. I'm the visionary. I need to have the people to tell them that this is what I want, and this is how it's going to be, so that we can test it out, see, how people are responding to it, and then make the right kind of, updates, or upgrades to that respective, application. um, the other aspect of this is to basically bring in, the AR VR element to it, which is super brand new for me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much about it, but because I've been part of these amazing communities like, UX Pakistan and other platforms. And I've been meeting a lot of these amazing women from the Pakistani women in computing, who are part of this, in part of that discipline. I'm kind of like learning how I can, incorporate, the element of AR and VR into it as well. So there's a lot, that I want to do. It's pretty exciting, but I'm not too sure like if I'll be able to do it in the next 5 years, or it might take me longer. But that's the vision, for now. It might change. It might just be like, after launching the app, it might just be that, oh my god, I just need to provide therapy, like, I need to have therapy affiliations, or
Mm-hmm.
government interventions, for helping these women. That's another element that I want to look into. So, it
Mm-hmm.
might change. There are many tracks that I can go to, but Teardrop is going to be this global platform where women who have been through domestic violence, abuse, and trauma, they
Mm-hmm.
can
Mm-hmm.
gain the right kind of, support that they need, whether it's emotional through the game, whether it's, financial through donations, or whatever. There are many things that we can do for them. And I feel like there are platforms out there which are doing amazing work, and it gets pretty intense, like
Mm-hmm.
really very intense. And having to have the right kind of tools is very necessary, and each organization, each individual organization is doing one bit to,
Mm-hmm.
towards solving that issue,
Mm-hmm.
for these survivors. But at the same time, I want Teardrop to be like that global, platform to do all of it. So I'll need a lot of allies, I'll need a lot of support, a lot of collaborations. So I'm still in the planning phase, but let's see. It's going to be one feature or one track at a time that I'll be launching.
Absolutely. It's like, taking baby steps to your destination. You still get to your destination, but you like hack away at it, a chunk at a time. Just for those who are watching and that would be interested in, getting in touch with Hamida, just for ease, Hamida's website is her first last name.com. There's a contact form that you guys can write to her on. Hamida, maybe if you'd like to share your email, if you think that would be better, we could also just do that. If you want to help collaborate or help Hamida in any way, I think she'd be super, super super down for that.
Sure, yeah. It's connect, CONNECT at hamidakhatri.com.
Which is also very easy. Or you can just go to her website. So there's
Yeah, I
two
know.
ways. I love it. That's so
Or
great to hear when
Facebook,
someone has.
anywhere. Anywhere you can approach me. I'm pretty approachable.
Yes, and if you'd like to also just like leave a comment, we'd like to we can get back to you through that way as well. Okay, so I'm super interested in Hamida how you're really talking about this entrepreneurship side of your journey and social innovation and also like social impact. How have you managed to marry these different very different domains into your projects?
Oh, I don't know. Truly speaking, I really don't know because I I I learn, I adapt as I learn as I go. So I learned about social impact, social innovation, and social entrepreneurship and community building, like officially, like in official terms when I
Mm-hmm.
came to the US. Before that, I was just on my own. I was doing it without having any, sort of literature, like support, theoretical support, or anything of that sort. When I came to the US, I realized that, oh my God, like there's a whole world out there and who's doing amazing work. And it's all about community building. It's all about social impact. It's all about, doing work for the societies that you're part of, either on a smaller scale or on a global scale. It's There's so much out there, and I was totally kind of you can say surprised when I came to the US and seeing that, oh my God, there's so much more work to be done. Like what I did was just like smaller things, baby steps that I took. But when I came to the US, I officially got grounded, towards
Mm-hmm.
all these concepts, because that's something that I was missing. And for me to apply for the master's program in the US was this reason कि मेरे पास कोई background history नहीं थी, कोई guidance नहीं थी. I didn't have that mentorship, I didn't have that many people in my life who would actually tell me that, Hamida, there's a whole idea of art therapy or creative therapy, that you can use. Like before coming to the US, I was also doing this certification in humanistic counseling. So that was another
Mm-hmm.
concept that I learned in
Mm-hmm.
that respective like fields. What I learned was there were different theories out there. You just सारे psychologists and therapists होते हैं. What they do, they come up with
Mm-hmm.
these amazing theories. They're always interested in identifying like some sort of an issue or a gap that's
Mm-hmm.
out there, and coming up with a solution on a theoretical basis. कि this is what it is, that is going to solve
Mm-hmm.
this problem. And a lot of people, a lot of theories that I learned about basically spoke about being a great listener. And I already had that quality, but I didn't really um, felt that it was something to be talked about or something to be proud of, or it's a tool that you can use, to build a connection with another person. I didn't think it like that way. I just had it in me and I was using it, but I didn't know what it meant. So having to have that right kind of like theoretical educational like backing to all the work that I started doing, I think that kind of you know puts everything together in a nutshell as to what community building meant for me, what social entrepreneurship or social innovation meant for me. Because what I was doing in all these different parts of the world, I was doing, I was creating those social, like social justice, based projects.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in India or in Bangladesh, and I was collaborating with these organizations, these NGOs, these different schools, and it was a smaller, like business sort of interaction that I was doing with them. I was just giving them some sort of some sort of solution that they can use for the rest of their life, and for free. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, wow, it actually means something. So US really made me realize a lot of things. Ke, आप छोटी छोटी चीजें भी जो करते हो, they're pretty meaningful. Like Pakistan में, you don't have people to tell you कि, oh, आपने आपने उसकी बात सुनी, आपने उसको time दिया, that actually is a good skill to have. They kind of don't push you. They don't tell you about these smaller things. Maybe some people do, some communities do, but मेरे network में कोई ऐसा कुछ नहीं था. So that's how it all came together.
Right, right, absolutely. And I think that sort of verbal encouragement and like this appreciation, it can really take you like really, really far. So thank you so much for sharing. Also, we have a message from Arzish from Facebook who says, Hamida, you rock. And I completely agree with that. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing this. And I feel like this is a really good transition into what I wanted to ask you next. So, for people who are based in non tech backgrounds but are passionate about social change, would you recommend like some tools that might be helpful for them? Because I mean, essentially, you had a lot of support network. You where there was a world of resources open to you and things that you could do. Um, but yeah, anything for people like me.
Um, so they're not like, if you talk about technical tools, there are technical tools, but
Mhm,
they're respective to what you want to do. So I can get into that a little bit, in like a few minutes. But just to give you a straight answer, there is no specific tool for social change at all. Like कोई
mhm,
hardcore वो नहीं है कि मैंने ये सॉफ्टवेयर यूज किया या ये बुक यूज पढ़ी तो मुझे सब कुछ आ गया. No, 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 it's not like that. Like I still don't know so many things. Oh my god, like I have like these tons and tons of books जो मैंने अभी खरीदी हैं, and I still have to read. There are like so many different concepts out there. Like there's this amazing, like book by this woman. Her name is Sasha Costanza Chuck. She wrote the book Design Justice. It was basically her thesis work, you can say. And she speaks about how technology has been used to create social change, and she also talks about the relationship between social change and power, how power kind of has a very important, like influence in creating social change and the dynamics of it. So it's like a different take on what you can do as a social, entrepreneur,
mhm,
per se. And then there are other books out there, who speak about social change on a very different tangent. Like, for example, there's a book by Paulo Freire. This is the book that I read when I was in my master's program in 2015. It's called the pedagogy of the oppressed. Basically what that means is he basically has a conversation with another individual whose name I'm forgetting, and he talks
mhm,
about how, like, the power of domination has affected the society. So that's an important element to consider when you're thinking about driving a social based project. We don't know, like, for example, when you talk about domestic violence, there is so much, like, there's so many aspects of domestic violence, like what basically creates this sort of a issue for people. Why do we call it domestic violence? What is
mhm,
violence? What is domestic
mhm,
violence? Because there are different levels of violence as well. So having to have the right kind of knowledge,
mhm,
that's one thing that's very important for people to get into this kind of work. Like, आपको आपका theoretical like background, educational, like not saying कि उस पे degree लो, but kind of
Mhm.
read the books from these amazing people who've written their theses, or um, talked about their issues in the societies and how they've tackled with, like, just because मैं एक artist भी हूँ, I
Mhm.
have a very different take on how an issue is looked at, for example. So that's something that I am very much interested in learning about, and having to have
Mhm.
a book like Design Justice kind of complements that
Mhm.
and supports that kind of work, because she talks about design thinking as well. Okay, technologies आजकल बहुत ज़्यादा focus करती हैं on issues that
Mhm.
require, like, if a user is going through an app,
Mhm.
what kind of elements do you need to use, what kind of color palette you need to use to actually trigger that response from them, like for them
Mhm.
to click that button, or
Mhm.
what kind of emotions do you want to have that user be aroused with. So there are so
Right.
many questions that you need to ask when you want to get into it. So there are no technical tools. It's all about
Mhm.
learning the right kind of theories which are out there, and sort of taking bits and pieces of those, and creating your own roadmap as to what you want to do with that. So वो आपको support अगर उससे मिलता है, then it's going to be an incredible journey for you. And when you talk about, like, if you talk about the technical products, like, I'm a lot into data visualization, just because
Yeah.
like artist too, मुझे visuals, I like having visuals to represent something. So right now
Right.
what I'm doing for my master's thesis, मेरा जो तीसरा master's है, उसमें I'm using the idea of data visualization to
Mhm.
basically transform the stories that I've received from all these amazing women, to show them to people, so that they realize, like, in a nutshell, कि ये problem is larger than what it seems. Like, people talk about it,
Mhm.
and we don't know what kind of solutions that they might have out there,
Mhm.
but having to have,
Mhm.
like, just a visual representation of what a person has been through, एक emotional uska sort of
Mhm.
response, that's
Mhm.
like creating impact. So my thesis basically focuses on that right now. So the data visualization tools would be Tableau and Vivo that I've been using, and they're incredible.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you so much for those. And these are specifically for data visualization, Tableau and Vivo.
Yes.
Got it. Got it. For people that are interested in data viz, great tools for you. Amazing. Thank you so much, Hamida, for sharing that. I think very insightful, and I really, really agree with like getting yourself familiar with the theories, like what's going on in the ground and the research that has happened before you, before actually diving into the problem. And so, building off of that, I know that there must be so much that you could share, but what are your top three tips for someone who wants to career their transition their career towards social innovation?
Top three things for them to transition. I um For me, the one thing that has really helped me stay,
Mm-hmm.
in this respective domain, is to just have that focus, and
Mm-hmm.
basically, jo Nike ka logo hai, just do it. I tend to do
Just
that.
do it.
I tend to use it. Like, if you have an idea, you just do it, man. Like, you don't need to think twice about it. Like, for example, for this teardrop, many I was thinking too much. And just I got the courage. I was like, I just gotta do it. Like, मैं पहले तो करती आ रही थी इतने सारे workshops or इतने सारे projects. I was just doing it out of this energy that I had. But what stopped me? So having to have teardrop kind of made me realize कि वो चीज मेरे में पहले से थी, and just do it is something, a slogan that I've used all my life, I feel, because it has helped me to realize that until and unless I don't take it out of my system, whatever ideas that I've had, I won't be able to generate new
Mhm.
ones, or I won't be able to kind of work on upgrading or making that idea better, because until and unless it's
Mhm.
not out there, you'll just be stuck. There's this term,
Mhm.
there's this therapy term. I don't know. I don't even remember right now. But wo use hota
Mhm.
hai. Impasse. Yeah, impasse. Impasse is the word. Like you're like in an impasse.
Mhm.
You're stuck in that situation. You can't get out of it. So until and unless you don't filter it, आप उसको flush it out नहीं करते अपने system से, you
Mhm.
won't be able to like come up with a new idea or doing something creative, in the community.
Absolutely.
So that's something that I would say. And second would be, never think of anything as a failure. Like if your project or your idea doesn't work the first time, it's not the end of the world. I, for me
Mhm.
personally,
Absolutely.
failures मैंने कभी मेरे failures हुए हैं, definitely, for sure, a lot of them, but I don't take them as disappointments. I don't take them as something that would, you know make me think of myself as, oh, मेरे पास ये skill नहीं है, या मैं ये नहीं कर सकती, and that's it, like I'm just gonna be in my bed
Mhm.
depressed all the time, whatever. Like it has happened to me, like ek din do din whatever, but
Mhm.
I always get up,
Mhm.
the very next day, and I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, if this doesn't work, there is something else that I can do. Maybe I can tweak it a little bit, my idea, and maybe that would,
Mhm.
spark up the interest from the people, and maybe there is something that I'm missing, like when you talk about having to
Mhm.
have that listening skill, maybe there's something that I missed, which is why I was unable to,
Mhm.
like have a good idea that would basically, help, the people. The third thing that I would say
Mhm.
is that, you basically have the power to control your destiny. So आपको जो track लेना है अपनी life में, you just go with it, and kind of have the right kind of support system, to help you with that journey. Like मेरे साथ, I never had a support system ever. Like Mira support system has
Mhm.
been my mother, because she has mothers are just mothers, like nobody can replace that. Like it's the biggest, it's the huge, it's the biggest blessing, you can ever have, because a mom would always understand where you're coming from. She would say yes to you, even if it's something is that she would think, maybe it would hurt you, but she would let you do it, so just so that you could learn a lesson, and then kind of come to a point where you're like, oh, okay, mama, aap ye jo keh rahe the sahi keh rahe the, so my mom has been the biggest support of me, and मेरा काम हमेशा से बहुत ही out of the box raha hai, unconventional raha hai, and it hasn't been something that would follow the traditional kind of track. So I haven't had the right kind of support around me who would be like, oh, Hamida, aap jo kar rahe ho sahi ho. So at that time, what I do is I actually empower myself. I tell myself,
Mhm.
okay, it's okay if they don't know. It's just that they're not well versed enough, in that domain. So I understand where
Mhm.
they're coming from. But at the same time, jo main kar rahi hu, wo sahi kar rahi hu, and you kind of need a little
Mhm.
bit of validation from people. So
Right.
you have to find that kind of right balance eventually. But
Mhm.
the third point is going to be that you control your own destiny. You control your own, path.
Absolutely.
So nobody can tell you, okay, ye sahi hai, ye galat hai, whatever. They can
Mhm.
always advise you. They can give you
Mhm.
feedback, but at the same time, you're the one who's making that decision. Like for example, teardrop ke liye,
Mhm.
I have so many questions. There's so many things that I'm doubting. Okay, oh my God, ye nahi karega, ye nahi kaam karega. But then I'm like, it's okay. There are people who've said to me, "Ke Hamida, app में ऐसे करोगी तो नहीं होगा कुछ, ऐसे
Mhm.
करोगी it's too much, blah blah." And I'm like, okay, I take your advice, and
Yeah.
sometimes I get into that, I fall into that trap of believing in
Mhm.
them, and then I'm like, oh
Mhm.
no, no, that can't happen. I need to go back to what I think is right and what my
Right.
gut instinct is saying, and then just do that. And then you along the way, God is amazing. Like along the way, when you
Mhm.
have a right kind of, when you have your heart and mind and set to something, something that's going to be good for the community, good for humanity, he just makes it really easy for you to do it, you know. So
Mhm.
it's like naturally he gives you that strength. So I along the way, you know, I found, you know, this amazing you know, supporter, amazing mentor who has been great in telling me that, Hamida, you just he kind of reminded me, "Okay, Hamida, you gotta do, you just gotta do it, you know. You don't have to have these negative voices around you, you know, who are telling you कि नहीं हो
Yeah,
सकता या वो हो सकता. Just remove those, just filter it out. So along the way, God
just do
kind of
it.
helps you. Yeah, God kind of helps you to find that voice again if you tend to lose it,
Mhm.
you know, along the way, because sometimes it happens.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that, Hamida. And I think all of us can really resonate with, having sort of a dream that we start with, but then letting the voices of the outside world sort of like crowd that, sort of drown out that inner voice. And it's so important to find that again and find that motivation again. And I think for us, like, you're like an example of someone who's doing that. So this is so helpful for us to hear. Um, and I guess like the next question is really similar to this process of reflection. What are some like questions, maybe the two questions you asked yourself when you took on this journey?
uh I basically, the two kind of questions that I asked myself when I took this journey, oh, like how will I do it? That was the first question. Like मैंने जब सोचा कि मैं, like for example, I will just give you my personal example. um when I decided to travel all by myself, you know, and starting doing these community projects, I just I thought to myself कि मैं ये कैसे करूँगी, you know, like having to be, you know, from a family that, you know, is not that liberal and stuff like that. So how will I do it, you know? And थोड़ा बहुत डर था मुझ में कि मैं नहीं कर पाऊंगी, this and that. But you know, eventually I gained that confidence. मैंने वो question खुद ही से answer करने लगी, you know. um, I did not ask for money from my parents or anybody, you know, to give me to do these projects. जब भी मैंने किए projects, they were always for free. The only thing I asked them was their true partnership with me. Like for example, when I went to India or when I went to the UK, वहाँ पे whoever I collaborated with, they did not give me anything, no, nothing financial at all. Yes, people gave me a place to stay and fed me, and you know, having to have that was brilliant. And those people who couldn't, I had my own, मैंने hotel book कराया था and everything, you know, transportation, whatever, and I would just do it out of this need to do it, you know. And I the one question that I really asked was how कि मैं ये कैसे सब करूँगी, but I gained that
Mhm.
confidence eventually because what supported me in my journey was my art, you know. मेरे art
Mhm.
ने मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा, you know, um, वो voice मेरे में थी पहले से, but at the same time I did not have that platform to say it. um,
Mhm.
it's like one of the fundamental things, you know, that a lot of women don't really get to see or don't get to kind of go into, you know. आपका
Yeah.
अपना आपकी अपनी voice होती है, वो दबती रहती है, you know. It's being suppressed over time because you're in that setting and you know nobody is kind of appreciating you and nobody is giving you the right kind of support. And you know, they're like, आप अगर कुछ बात करते हो, कोई ideas share करते हो, if you want to do something, they kind of shut you down. So you kind of like, your voice dies down within you. So for me, what
Mhm.
happened was I just, my whole network that I had at that time, they did not really understood, you know, what I wanted to do. So art
Mhm.
helped me to find that, you know, to basically find that voice again, to empower
Mhm.
myself. And जब मैंने अपना काम, I started to exhibit in different galleries, not having the thought कि मैंने अपना काम बेचना है, but it
Mhm.
was on sale and
Mhm.
people bought it, and majority of the work was bought by men. And I was like
Oh,
surprised
wow.
कि, oh my god, they want to be part of the conversation too, you know. So having to have like that support from the community indirectly. जो भी पैसा मैंने
Mhm.
कमाया था from those exhibitions, I started using that for my work. So वो पैसा
Mhm.
मैंने collect किया, I got the ticket, and then I just went with it. So that was my first question that I asked myself कि मैं कैसे करूँगी, but eventually things kind of fell into
Mhm.
place and I got the answer. And the second question I
Right.
asked was, how will I, like, which is part of the first question too, कि मैं financially इसको कैसे कर पाऊंगी? So by selling my
Right.
work, I was able to do it. And um, yeah, these were the two questions that I had. Hmm.
Thank you so much for sharing those. And I think for our viewers, we've given a lot of like food for thought for them going forward. Lots of pieces of reflection as well. And just I just wanted to take a moment to thank you, Hamida, as we're like going to wrap up in a minute. For a really, really insightful, session, for sharing so many amazing tips, for being so vulnerable in this space with us, and being really yourself. I think that's such a beautiful thing about you and what you bring to every table or every room that you're a part of. To all those who are watching, know that this is the beginning of a conversation. It doesn't need to be the end. If you'd like to learn more about this topic, if you just want to connect more with Hamida, she's an amazing human being. Please feel free to go to her first last name, so hamidakhatri.com, and click on the contact form, or you can just like leave a comment, like I said, and we'll get back to you. I just wanted to also just like give a shout out to people who are watching. Thank you so, so much. Thank you so much, Reshma Heather Auntie. She's someone who's so special for the Pakistan, Tech Summit family and for Ijad Labs as well. So she says it's so nice to see both of us here. Thank you, Arzish, for joining and everyone else. And thank you also to the Startup Grind members in Salcode for watching us, in addition to all of the other lovely human beings who are with us today. So, yeah, thank you so much, Hamida, for your time and such a lovely evening today.
Yeah, I'm glad to be part of, to have this conversation with you, and also to see so many amazing people who are sending their comments. Just to add that, it's, whoever wants to do whatever work that they want, just do it, okay? Because there's nobody who's gonna say and come to you, आपका हाथ कोई नहीं पकड़ेगा and बोलेगा कि, okay, let me just take you, to your journey and let you do all these things, no, 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 no. Nobody is gonna be there. You're on your own. You gotta find that that path and you're gonna walk on it. So I would just say to everybody, just do any project that you want to do, just do it. Find the right kind of people you want to collaborate with, if you want to collaborate, and just do it. And thank you again
Amazing.
to Paktek Summit and Iza and Arzush and Omar and everybody else who's been part of this conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We are going to go off live now, but we're always here to connect. Bye, everyone, and thank you, Hamida.